a flurry at 6 o'clock.
We're good? Okay. Uh-oh. Good Lord's telling us.
Time to go.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Village of Kempton Hills, June 26, 2025, 7 p.m. Roll call, please. Can you do roll call, or Mark or Carmen? Our clerk is not here this evening.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Trustee Benetti?
Here.
Trustee Boatner?
Here.
Trustee Burson is absent and excused. Trustee Millet?
Present.
Trustee Muir?
Present.
Trustee Hoppensberger?
Here.
And President Winnicky.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Okay. Please rise for the pledge. And Therese, would you lead us in the pledge? Okay, we're going to have a word from our attorney, Carmen Forte, before we go on to public comment. So Carmen, the floor is yours.
Sure. Good evening. It was previously announced at the last village board meeting that there would be a public hearing this evening regarding a proposed annexation of some land south of Route 38. Prior to tonight's evening, the village board determined that the public hearing would not occur this evening and would be scheduled for a future date to be determined. The agenda for this evening indicates that it's going to be on July 15th. That is not set in stone. That's just the next regular village board meeting. It's entirely possible that it actually will not be that evening, but when it does appear on a public hearing, it will be, for a public hearing, it will be on an agenda that will be posted 48 hours prior on the village's website and also available here at Village Hall. If and when that public hearing does occur, there will be notice published in the local newspaper 15 days prior. So that will be well in advance of when an agenda comes out. So there is no subject this evening on the agenda for anything related to a proposed annexation or annexation agreement. The board doesn't anticipate, or the board won't be discussing it this evening.
Nor opening a public hearing.
Right, there won't be any public hearing this evening.
Okay, thank you, Carmen. Now we'll open it up to public comments. I see that nobody filled out a form, but if there's somebody who'd like to say a few words, you're welcome to come up and state your name and address and what you're going to speak on. Okay? All right, well, thank you. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Anything to remove from the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull item C, please.
Okay. Anything else to remove from the consent agenda? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to move the consent agenda with the exception of 4C.
So moved.
Moved by Frank, second by Therese. Roll call? Who's going to do roll call? Okay.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Trustee Hoppensberger?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. All right, motion for 4C. Mike?
I would so move.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Therese, second. Okay, go ahead, floor is yours.
The question is, and this is for Scott or Manager Rooney, the Group 1 are Section 16 and 17, Woodbridge and Steeple. If I recall correctly, those are, when we looked at them last, those were a couple roads that we had issues that didn't have really good drainage. There was no ditch originally put in when the development went in, and there was some concern of how close the vegetation was. So are we going to treat these as a subset of the overall program, or are we coming up with a different strategy?
We are going to take a look at the drainage. We have heard that while it was installed differently than per plan, it does work for the most part. In regards to excessive vegetation in that neighborhood, There've been some preliminary discussions with the Highway District about additional pruning and such to try to open it up. There hasn't been anything definitively decided on that, but that is part of the reason for a roadway like that deteriorates quicker is it does not dry out after rainfall. It will stay wet long after roads that are more exposed, hence quicker deterioration. So we are going to take a look at that.
And
Okay.
the highway commissioners had discussions along with the foreman that part of the charm and attractiveness of that neighborhood is the large growth, old trees, but they do shade in the winter, and then even in the summer, it does not dry out because there is so much shade. And that the trimming could be very problematic to do and very expensive to prune it without destroying that canopy that does exist. So that they want their roads redone, but they don't want their trees touched. So we're going to have to really examine that, and Sam and Ray are all about coordinating what we do on those.
Then I further my off-the-cuff remark earlier to, these maybe need separate treatment than the rest of the 18 through 24 they're proposing, because I wouldn't want to bid the bids commingled if necessarily to drive prices up, unit prices up for the whole project, because this one area is so uniquely different than the remainder. And if we do indeed determine that something has to be done differently, either in material thickness, if there's culverts missing, whatever we come up with that wouldn't be part of the ordinary project, I'd be concerned that it not be a potential issue for the remainder of the program.
I think we can show the cost when we get the bids back, and the board, as we've said before, you're going to decide if we're going to spend 700 or 800 or 850 upon return of the bid prices, and and if it's too much out of the general fund at that point, you're going to determine as a group which road gets deleted if one does get deleted. So you still, absolutely, to Trustee Millet's point, you will have the opportunity to select or deselect a road or roads based on costs.
That is correct. While there's a total bid for the overall project, each road, so when bids are brought here, we can bring to you the bid cost for the roadway within the program. So you see where that, should it be over budget, you can see where that would fall.
Scott, could you give the general location of where these roads are so everybody would know what we're talking about?
Sure. The roads that are being talked about, Woodridge and Steeple, they are just north of McDonald Road, east of Route 47. It's a residential neighborhood in that particular area.
In the Plato Township.
Those are in Plato Township,
Plato,
correct?
okay. Okay, any other, Frank, go ahead.
Just a question. I think last meeting you covered kind of how the roads are chosen. Can you just recap that real quick again? You know, how the list was formed?
Especially with the robotics, so that people understand that.
Certainly. We have, 2 times now, 4 years apart, utilized it's an AI-based, artificial intelligence-based analysis of roadway condition. It's very objective, independent. Every roadway within the village is driven, cameraed, and then analyzed as far as deterioration. And then each segment of roadway, and typically it's developed, will be from intersecting street to intersecting street. So a short street might have one segment, a long street might have 10 or 12 segments, and each segment could be different condition. But then those are analyzed as to which roadways are in worse condition, and then looked at as far as logical groupings. So we're not having contractors running all over town. If we can fix a bunch of streets together in one area, it's a little more cost effective. That combined with input from the highway district, we may do an analysis in the summer of one year, and we have a bad winter, and certain roadways may deteriorate quicker than others that were on the list. So combination of those, but all this is done in conjunction between Roadbotics, myself, and the Highway District as far as input, as far as priority of roadways. And it's a balancing act, because there's always more roads that need to be done than there's currently funding for. So we're not able to take care of all the bad roads at once. You get the worst of the worst.
Okay, any more discussion or questions? No? Okay, roll call on 4C.
Trustee Benetti?
Aye.
Trustee Boatner?
Aye.
Trustee Millet?
Aye.
Trustee Muir?
Aye.
Trustee Hoppensberger?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to discussion items. 5A, Plan Commission Recommendation, Village of Campton Hills Comprehensive Plan 2025.
I just wanted to apologize. There's been a little delay on getting that updated version from Jim Brown. They had their public hearing. They've recommended approval of the comp plan, but they gave him some pagination, editing, and presentation of some of the tables that they wanted edited and cleaned, so it's a easier product to read online as well as when you print it. There was some disconnect on the Word document PDF. They're fixing that. But the document was approved by the Planning and Zoning at their last public hearing 2 weeks ago. And you will get it, and he could be available on 8 July or your regular, if we do a special meeting, or the 15th at the meeting that's scheduled for July to do a presentation to the board. And early next week, he'll have the edited version, not the copy that went for the Planning and Zoning Commission that has been since edited with some pagination. Not any change to the actual document legally or functionally of what it states, just cleaning up so it reads better and is a better document to present. And that'll be on for the agenda, but he'll have it publicly replace the one that's on the webpage for the planning and zoning to the one that will be for your consideration and for the public to be viewing on the 15th of July, if that's when we have our next meeting, for Mr. Brown to do a PowerPoint and explain everything that was changed. And you'll have that cleaned up version to include the new letter from the village president introducing it and stuff. So, and they attached a stormwater management appendix. So it's in good shape. And if you have questions and concerns, you can look at it and contact myself directly or Jim Brown. And if you think it's a legal question, go to the attorney, Carmen Forte, as trustees.
Okay, Therese, go ahead.
Just real quick, so we'll get a copy of this?
Yeah, you'll get a copy in the link. Jim Brown should have something
Next
after
week.
this weekend.
Okay.
And he'll get it out to you before the holiday, so
Okay.
like the 2nd.
Yeah.
No later. And we'll post that on the webpage, so folks will see what was there, and then the cleaned up version will both be present, so anybody can compare how we tried to make the document more readable and
Because I had spoken to you and the committee about some, just recommendations I had, and I didn't send that in before I went out of town.
Yep.
So I held on to it, so I'll kind of look and see if any of those things were already corrected and
Yeah.
changes made, and then I'll do what I had said to you I was going to do before I went on vacation,
Yeah.
but I'll do it after now. So as soon as I get a copy of it, I'm going to compare it to the notes I had before of things that may have already been corrected or found.
Yeah, and if you find that it hasn't been and you get
Yep,
some
I'll-
comments, share it with Jim and I,
Yeah.
but then you could CC the rest of the board. Just
You bet.
don't respond as a group, because that would be a FOIA, or, I mean, not a FOIA, it'd be a
Violation
open
of
open meetings violation. So don't respond to all, but you could CC the rest of the board and Jim and I.
And I was pretty certain that none of the changes I was proposing are substantive.
Yeah.
They're more just clarifying, so, but yeah, I can send it out. And if someone disagrees and thinks that I'm making a change that's substantive, then we can obviously
We'll
talk
do-
about that, and, but I was doing more just
Yep.
fixing a few things.
Yeah, and all of you should take advantage of that and just don't respond and hit all.
Probably
Thanks.
just best to send everything to Mark, and then that way he can disseminate as necessary.
Yeah.
Rather than sending it to the whole board.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll send it tomorrow.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
probably
perfect.
best.
All right, Kim, go ahead.
Yeah, just a more tech tech recommendation there. If you're gonna copy everybody, make it a blind carbon copy. That way you can't mistakenly do it.
Yeah, Kim's
reply all.
right. It's a great idea.
I think that's why Carmen's telling me to do it, so if I,
Even better, just to have the administrator send things out as
There you
necessary.
go.
Yeah, it's best to state,
Yeah.
yeah. Public, business at public meetings.
yeah, and I've got everybody on a group to put you at blind CC, so you can't create a open meetings violation.
Mhm.
And the public, though, too, if you've got issues or concern, please reach out to Jim Brown or I, and we'll make sure we have answers at the 15th of July, or if we have another meeting sooner, we'll do it then.
Okay, anything else about the comp plan? No? Hearing and, no? Okay, we'll move on. Additional items from the president, trustees, or attorney? Trustees, anything? Frank, go ahead.
I was just wondering if we can get an update on Norton Lakes, what's happening with that?
I had a meeting with the developer, Hank's attorney from Ansel Glink, Dirk, and the Shodine representatives, the owners actually came too. And they discussed a tentative understanding that they've come to. The Shodine team wishes to do a walkthrough with the HOA, and that's been scheduled for 8:30 on July the 8th to meet and discuss the different issues that the HOA has. And Shodine representatives will say they want a self-perform correction of said items if it's in their bailiwick. And we are going to get, and the HOA is going to get a letter from Ansel Glink saying that they will provide $75,000 to the HOA to correct things the developer's responsible for, because there are many things the HOA and the members of Norton Lake think are Shodine issues, but they truly are the responsibility of the developer, not the builder of the lot. So we're going to get that clarity, and Ansel Glink will send something directly to the HOA on a release for that 75, but they are also going to give the village $30,000 to $35,000 for rejuvenation work on the 1 7/10 of a mile of roadway in the development. And we're going to get the unit price that we just approved tonight, and they're going to give us either $29,000 to $35,000 for that. And also, there's 5 roadway signs for speed that have not been installed, that are the developer's responsibility, not Shodine. And they will give us the check, and upon acceptance of the public improvements, I'll hand the check to the highway commissioner, and because he's going to tell me the exact amount to install 5 speed signs in the subdivision. And the day after we do the public acceptance, he will install said signs. He can't do it ahead of time because it hasn't been accepted, so the insurance of the highway department isn't valid till it's accepted. So that's why the next day. And we've coordinated that, so that should be taken care of. The bigger issue will be the 8th, if Shodine and the HOA come to good understanding on other items.
Yeah, I noticed they dropped off a bulldozer.
Yes,
So
they're.
I'm assuming they're
I-
planning on doing something, so.
Yes, I think the grading issue, they're coordinating for Hank to do some grading on the common area for the developer. Yes.
Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, can I ask what the speed limit is gonna be set to? Is it gonna be the 25 that's in Fox Mill, or is it gonna be 30 in the rest of the residential area?
The rest, I think we were going to do 30 as the standard speed limit of the village, is all residential properties are 30 unless you want to set 25 as the standard over there.
It was reduced in Fox Mill to 25.
Right, so
That'd be a good
any
idea.
reduction would require an ordinance, and village engineer can speak to the requirements for that as well, but it would likely require a study for that.
So that's
Well,
why
we can't just
it's
like-
30, it's 30 as the rest of the residential properties. I think Fox Mill had a one-off, and they did a study long ago to reestablish a 25.
Well, I do believe it was the current chief that did that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Is it-
Go ahead, Mike.
Council, this thing's racked my brain for 30-some odd years. Isn't there some stipulation between home rule and non-home rule about setting speed limits?
Yes, and it's, we have very, we have control over the municipal street system, but unilaterally reducing certain areas of the village is often outside of our control.
Okay.
So, and a lot of times, people will ask, well, okay, I have a street that's in the village now, and it's at the 25, whereas the village's ordinance says 30. Many of those streets probably had speed limit signs on them before they came into the village.
Right.
So they were already set at 25, likely by the county.
Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, is it 30 at Norton Lake now? Is it 30? Or is it-
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's 30 because we haven't, as a council, haven't written
Right.
a special one-off
Right.
changing it to 25.
Right.
And that's, so non-home rule can't do it, home rule can do it unilaterally, we
Right.
could just pass an ordinance.
Right,
Non-home rule, we have to have a speed study. Okay, that's vaguely what I recall.
right.
And if there's a desire of the board, please tell me, and I'll have to get HR Green to give me a price to change it from 30 to 25, if that's what you want to do.
Go ahead, Frank.
I don't know if it's worth the expense, but there's so many people that interchangeably use those roads from Fox Mill and Norton Lakes using the Fox Mill roads. It would be better if it was consistent, but I don't know if it's worth spending a lot of money to try to figure it out. Because I guarantee you, somebody's going to complain that,
Right.
why is this 30 when everything else is 25? So
Can we get a ballpark?
Yeah.
Could you give us a ballpark?
Scott.
He hates when it does this to him. He's stressing. Less than 100, right?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Less than 20?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 1.7 miles.
Set 6 or 7. And maybe there's something about consistency with the adjacent subdivision we can put in there as part of the study.
Sam told me 5,000 at one time, but I hate to bring
Okay.
that up.
Yeah. I mean, it's likely, folks, it's going to be over $5,000, but
That's sort of the
between
number
5 and
Sam
10,000, do you
uses.
want to spend 5 to 10,000?
That's why I said, I don't know if it's worth the expense, but 3 out of the 4 entrances and exits of Norton Lakes go through Fox Mill.
Wow. Jeez.
I have one authorizing me to, I mean, I get consensus. If it's over 10, I won't do it without coming back for a board action, but if it's under 10, do I have a consensus you'll authorize that? Because I can spend 10 under the authority of the board already, but I don't do it unless I've got a pretty good understanding you'd want to do it.
Can I suggest we ask the HOA at Norton Lakes first if they think it's gonna be a problem? And if they don't, then maybe we just ignore it altogether? I mean, if that's all right?
I'm going to be in, every other day I have some kind of text with the president anyway, so it won't be
Yeah,
hard.
I just think it makes sense, because if anybody's gonna complain, it's gonna be their residents, and if we check with them first, then maybe
And if he thinks it would be, I'll be authorized to start the study so we don't delay this. They've had a lot of delays on other issues. I want to get the sign up. All right, thank you.
Any additional items at all? All right, looks like we're ready to adjourn. or-
I just have a very brief closed session.
Sure.
So it'll be a closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/2C11 regarding pending, probable, or imminent litigation.
Okay.
and there will be no action after closed session.
All righty.
Move to
So
enter closed
motion-
section for that reason.
Moved by Mike, second
Second.
by Frank. Roll call?
Getting used
Are
to
all
my
in
new role
favor?
here.
We could do
All-
all.
Yeah, all in favor.
All in
yes.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Move into closed session, and there'll be no action after.